Today we're going to be redesigning the album cover for Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, Into the Great Wide Open. This is just a fun personal project, not trying to say that my design is much better than the originals, but just a learning process, some portfolio development, or some good content. And I'm planning on doing a series of these. This is the first one I'll be doing. I'm going to do an album cover A to Z, so this would be basically the P for Petty. And I'll do something for A, for B, or C, and go through the whole alphabet. So this one, I'm just starting off with some basic ideas. Just throw the name of the band in there, throw the name of the album, and just try some ideas. You see, I started off just using a picture of Tom Petty, and I didn't think it was going anywhere, so I abandoned it pretty quickly. And then I replaced it with a signature 12-string Tom Petty guitar from the 90s, which I actually remember seeing one of those in an Akron music store here close by to me back in the day. As you can see here, I'm using a brush to select the instrument through a mask. This is definitely not the best way to do it. I end up abandoning it pretty soon. Just using a pen tool here pretty soon, so just keep that in mind. This is definitely not ideal to just sloppily brush through there. But that's all right. You know, we can just dive into the project and just see what happens, and it's okay to make mistakes and then just go ahead and fix it and be like, all right, there's a better way to do this, and just move on. And just use that pen tool to get a nice clean selection. Do what you have to do, clean up the edges a little bit, and just trying to treat the guitar kind of like it's a character. Just scaling it down, moving it in, going for a bit of a symmetrical balance composition with this one. Later on I'll add just a little bit of asymmetry, but yeah, it's a pretty balanced idea. And just taking in graphics from the internet, like this vector graphic drawing of these creepy looking wings. I had this idea to have like these wings coming out of the guitar. I ended up changing it with a different type, but again, this is kind of the process that I use with these album cover designs. Is I have a tendency to just throw ideas in there and just see what happens. See, there's a different type here I'm going with. I end up just going ahead and stretching it out a bit and just cheating a little bit, moving it off to the side. And you see here this picture of a kid, just free stock graphic off the internet. And Tom Petty had a tendency to wear bandanas both across his forehead and his neck at different points of his career in videos and in concerts. So I thought it'd be a good idea, again, just treating the guitar almost as if it was a character. Just going in and selecting it. Now, in this instance, I do end up very appropriately using the brush, because the bandana has a very organic, rough edge to it. So that's a perfect opportunity to just use a brush through the mask to just select the areas that you do and don't want. So I'm just going in here carefully. It's a bit of a tedious process, but just got to do what you have to do. I am watching this with you in post. Obviously I'm not working at this speed. I'm doing this in post, and I have the video set at 500 speed, 500%, so it's 5 times sped up. So I don't want to make it too fast so that you can't tell what's going on, and I don't want to make it regular speed so it's not moving fast enough that you'll just want to click off. And just want to give you the bird's eye view and the general macro idea of what I did, and just hopefully you can learn from it. Sometimes tutorial videos are like very perfect and rehearsed, and like we're going to do A, then B, then C, then D. And then there are videos where it's more organic, and hopefully you can learn through just watching somebody do the whole process and just say, okay, this is what I did. A lot of it got used, and a lot of it didn't. See here, just scaling it in. I am going to warp it. See, I'm using the transform and then the warp. Then just have to warp it into place a little bit. It's not a perfect process. Just go back in with a brush and try to clean it up, make it look as if it was already shaped that way. Now the one on the right, the little piece on the right, was a little easier to just wrap around the neck as if it was like a human's neck. The one on the left, I end up just cutting it off. Like I try to do that, and it's like, this isn't working. I ended up just going with plan B, and I ended up just kind of painting it off and just making it look as if it's just like, it's just gonna make it look as if it's just falling behind it there. I think that looks a lot better. Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, was one of my favorite music groups when I was a kid, like particularly like preteen to early teen years. This was definitely a favorite album of mine, so it was a fun project to do. See here, getting rid of the rest of the stand, just using the pencil to clean that up. And it leaves a little bit of residue on there. I end up fixing that by just grabbing some clouds. And you see I'm kind of turning it into a bit of a shrine. So like, if you don't know, Tom Petty has passed away since then, and so I'm just, even though this is an album from 1991, I thought it'd be appropriate since, this is just a fun redesign project for my YouTube channel, for my content portfolio, and just play off the idea that he's passed away since then. So this is almost kind of like a shrine treatment. And just messing around with the warping around the clouds again, just sort of painting it on, so to speak. It's not a perfect process, just like cloning pieces of it off and then just moving it around just a little bit. Just trying to get again some sort of a symmetrical balanced look here, and you don't want it to look very obviously paste on, make it look as if it was one cohesive piece. And it took a little bit of a broken heart graphic on there. That was something that was used, I think, in their first album particularly. And now you see a process where I'm putting a lot of textures in there. Started with a brick, started with different types of walls. This is something I do a lot. I just sort of mess around with textures both in the background and in the foreground. And a lot of these I'll just mess around with overlay modes, like hard light modes, screen multiply, and so on and so forth. I would just go up and down the blending modes. I will mess around with opacity settings, mess around. I can even adjust their colors and just see what works. Like a lot of it is like, I wasn't sure. Like I ended up applying something to that broken heart graphic there. It has been a few weeks since I worked on this, so I don't remember exactly what I did. I'm just sort of watching it with you. Again, putting some gradient in there. This is definitely going to help the composition a bit, so it's not too flat in the background. Getting some more color in there as well. I end up using that light red. I think that brightens it up quite a bit. Makes it look a little more friendlier. Now the original cover was a painting. It was a little bit weird because it wasn't like obvious as to why this is a Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers album cover, but I do like how it had a very colorful look to it, so I wanted to at least be true to it to some extent and leave a little bit of that in there. It has this nice kind of warm, friendly color to it, just playing off of the red of the Rickenbacker guitar and just moving things in there, making sure it's nice and balanced and symmetrical and in the center properly. So again, that heart is just off to the side, to the right, so there's just a hint of asymmetry in there. Add some shadow onto the bandana so it looks a little more naturally like it's on there. Just trying to think of ways that I can maybe take it a little bit further and not just, slapped a few photoshopped elements in there. You notice I put a little bit of a weird cardboard texture in there. I'm definitely not thinking, this is about cardboard. A lot of it is just grabbing my texture elements and just chugging things in there and just seeing what happens and just finding something creative. You see I'm messing around with the type a little bit more. I ended up not sticking with the type that you just saw me put in there. It's a little, I'm trying to be different. I'm trying not to be obvious. I didn't want it to look too corporate, like just regular, corporate design. I didn't want to look too like, Swiss design or anything like that. Messing around with the levels treatment. I do end up changing the type a couple more times. Again, just messing around with the wings here. You'll see me in a second. I'll end up doing a bit of a doubling effect. I'm just messing around with some ideas. Like a lot of it's just trying things. Like I don't know. Like, am I too married to this idea? Like maybe if I try this color or that color. A lot of it's just trusting the process, just throwing ideas in there. Like I don't always know what I'm going to do. You see there, I ended up doing a doubling effect. I just turned turned it white and put it in the background and just faded it off a little bit. Thought it was a pretty cool effect. Again, it was not something that I thought of originally. It just kind of came to me and I tried it. And just grabbing some stickers from some files I had on my hard drive, and some of these textures are in the background and some of them are actually on the foreground. Just trying to see what I can do to maybe overlay things so that it doesn't look too perfectly clean and too perfectly digital. So I'm messing around with the clouds a little bit. I end up trying some things that I don't end up using. Again, just playing around with it, try it, see if it works, and even if you don't end up using it, you end up getting some ideas out of it and maybe realizing by experimenting with what didn't work, it makes you realize why you like what you do like. And I'm sort of messing around with the textures on the wings, and end up sort of making it look less like a clean vector graphic and more like maybe something actually drawn onto the background. I'm trying things with the clouds. I end up trying a bunch of things there that I didn't end up sticking with. I wasn't sure if I wanted it to look too clean or if I wanted it to look a little crazier, and I'm just trying things and it's like, nope, that didn't work, nope, that didn't work, nope, that didn't work. And again, just go in and just dive right in and just have fun with it and just be creative and allow yourself to fail, allow yourself to figure out by a process of elimination what you do want to do. Now I end up cleaning up the clouds in the end, just a little bit off camera. Most of this I caught on camera. I ended up doing a couple adjustments at the very end of the process that I think that I just forgot to record. So you see here, I'm trying to see if, like, should I maybe blend the color in with the guitar? Should I just do something weird? Like, just experimenting. I end up keeping it looking fairly clean and nice and fluffy in the end. You see here, just making some final tweaks. I really messed around with that a lot, didn't I? But then I end up seeing a little bit of some issues down at the bottom. I end up cleaning that up in a minute or so. You see here, putting these textures. I think this is when I really start to fade back those wings. That's what I was thinking about earlier. It's like just making it look almost as if it was like chalk drawn or something like that, so it doesn't look too clean and too perfect looking. A lot of times when I grab several elements from different resources, I will do things like add color lookup tables, add textures to the whole thing, just try to find ways to make them look more cohesive, like they belong together, rather than just, photo bash together real quick. I just want to go in and make sure that there's no issue, like that line at the bottom there, just something got off there. Now this is the second sitting. I came back to it like a few weeks later, I think, and then I ended up, not sure how much time there passed, but I ended up just putting that kind of prismatic gradient effect on there, and ended up being just a nice effect, like a light effect, like some kind of a light coming through the clouds type of an idea. Just a little bit more asymmetrical balance. Not messing with the type a little bit. End up not sticking with that into the gray white open. That's kind of tracked out there. Like I just wasn't sure with what I had before. I didn't like it. Some final levels adjustments on the guitar, so it'll just be a little more clear. Then just sort of saying, okay, final touches, like how light do I want it to look? How dark do I want it to look? Just not be afraid to just go in. And that gradient helped a lot, just to darken up the top, just so you can see the text just a little bit. That's important to me, to make sure the text looks good. Now this is the final version. You see with the Into the Great Wide Open, I just put like some roughed up sticker around it. I think the contrast works a lot better that way, so you can more cleanly see Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, then the Into the Great Wide Open below it. Nice contrast with the red. Overall, let me know what you think. You can see with the three different versions with the type. I think that going from the first, the version, the second version to the third. I think I got it with the third one. Let me know what you think. So you see the original on the left and mine on the right. Again, not doing this to say like, wow, I did much better, but it was a fun project. I wanted to maintain the look and feel of it being kind of colorful, but kind of do my own version with my style, just my tendencies in Photoshop and all that, and also to kind of bring the guitar in there. I wanted it to make it look more rock and roll. So hopefully you liked it. Let me know in the comments if you did, and thank you for watching, and take care.